Imagine walking into your boss's office and giving notice because your writing has become your primary revenue stream. Or your podcast is successful enough that you can quit your day job. Or maybe having your marketing on autopilot so you can spend your time on the art career you love rather than on marketing. Are you a creative person who's great at what you do, but marketing makes you freeze? You're not alone. I help passionate, purpose-driven creatives overcome fear, find their brand voice, and build a marketing strategy that works for them. Oh yeah, I also make it easy and painless. It's never too late to grow the business you've been dreaming about. Book an introductory call with me, Rob Southgate, at southgatesmallbusiness.com today. And let's take the pain out of marketing together. One of my favorite events from last year is happening again, and you don't want to miss it. Books and Brews 2 will be held on Saturday, August 2nd, 2025, at the Wyndham Hotel in Noblesville, Indiana, just outside of Indianapolis. You can meet over 60 horror authors, all in one place. You can buy books on site, or you can bring what you already have and you can get them signed while you meet the authors. Books and Brews 2 is brought to you by the incredible horror book Facebook group, Books of Horror. Get your tickets today by clicking the link in the show notes. You don't need to be afraid. It's just horror authors. Welcome to Ink Blots, the show where I interview authors about their lives, writing, and the books they love. Be sure to follow the Ink Blots podcast on Substack. Not only can you listen to the latest episodes, but our Substack also has interview transcriptions and links to books and other items that we talk about on the show. If you like what we're doing, please give us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts and on YouTube. It really helps us and our sponsors out. Oh, and leave comments. We really do read and respond to every one. Now, let's get on with the show. Welcome to Ink Blots. I'm Rob Southgate. Today I have Jon Cohn with me, author, horror author that is parts of Books and Brews 2, which is going to be August 1st in Noblesville, Indiana at the Wyndham Hotel. I'm going to have a bunch of authors from Books and Brews 2. Last year we did a whole series. I think I had like 26 authors from Books and Brews 1 on, and I just love you guys. I have so much fun talking to the horror authors, and I know the audience loves it. So here we go. This is the first time we're doing it as Ink Blots, though. That's a new thing. So, Jon, welcome.
Thanks for having me on. I'm really glad to be here.
I can't tell you how excited I am. I'll tell you in a second why I'm so excited. But, Jon, I'm going to want you to tell people who you are and what you do. The reason I'm excited is what you do. I have been obsessed with the cover for Slashtag since I first saw it. It pops up in my feed all the time because of Books of Horror, because of, and every time I'm like, I haven't read it yet. And every time I see it, I'm like, oh my God. So when you signed up for this thing, I'm like, I can't wait to talk to him because the cover, the curb appeal of your book is amazing. Amazing. So, Jon, tell people who you are, what you do. Tell them a little about your books.
Yeah, I'm Jon Cohn. I am a horror author. I've written books like Slashtag, which was in the Books of Horror Indie Book Brawl. It made it to the quarterfinals. There is a standalone spinoff called Try Not to Die on Slashtag, which you can make your own choices. It's an interactive literary adventure where you have over 24 ways to die. I've got a couple other books. Everything is Temporary, The Island Mother. And then I have a new book that's coming out June 12th called Kill Beth. And it is a psychological supernatural thriller set in a theater about a theater director who is coming up against the ghosts of his past and maybe some other new ghosts.
Wow.
I'm also a board game designer, by the way. Also, I've been a professional board game designer. That's my other job for over a decade now. I've made games for Fangoria, for Fright Rags. I'm the lead designer at Beyond Killer Games. And I recently made a game with Eli Roth. We made a game based off of his movie Thanksgiving. So that's some fun stuff too.
That's fabulous. Now you're doing board games. Do you ever venture into like TTRPG, or is it really like board games your thing?
No, I've been playing RPGs, TTRPGs, since I was in 7th, 8th grade. It's really what got me into storytelling and game design in the first place. There is a lot of crossover there. And so after 15 years of being a dungeon master and writing all of my own campaigns, I think it really set up a good scaffolding for how to write novels. Because when I wrote campaigns, you're writing a situation, you're creating the world, and then you're letting your other player characters kind of drop into that. And so for me, it kind of became my process for writing books too, was I'm going to build a world, I'm going to build all these characters, and then I'm going to drop them into the story. And to a certain degree, see what they do, which is very much how you run your own Dungeons and Dragons campaign.
So what sparked you originally? Was it just you're like 8th grade and you're going, wow, this looks cool, and I want to go and play swords? Or was it like it drew you? I mean, what sparked it?
I am and always have been very nerdy. I was really into video games. I was really into Magic the Gathering. I was in a chess club. So as far as the scales of nerddom go, it was a natural next step for me when I was around 8th grade. It's just other people are off going to parties and drinking, and my friends are like, "Hey, you want to get in here? I got Magic the Gathering." You're like, "Oh, okay.
What? Wow,
this is my gateway drug right here."
Yeah, I understand. Yeah, I got into. I mean, I'm older than you. D&D had just come out, was like the thing, and I was at my cousin's house, and I was probably 7th or 8th grade, and they let me sit with them, and that was it. It was like, this is what it's about, and I see the storytelling thing. Now, when you were doing that, I mean, in the beginning, we're playing swords and sorcery, but did you ever get into like horror RPG?
I did. I played the Call of Cthulhu game for a while as a player, not as a DM, and I really loved it. I loved that you could have an RPG coming from things like Dungeons and Dragons, where a lot of the time me and my friends would play as what you call murder hobos, where people they get bloodthirsty when they play these games, and they're like, I can kill anyone, I'm going to do it. But to play something that's, Lovecraftian, where it's about slowly building dread, and you're not even going to necessarily fight anything in a night of play, that was a really eye-opening experience for me of, wow, there are so many different levels of storytelling here, and there's so many different directions that you can take this. And from there, I did splinter off, and I played a bunch of different games in a bunch of different genres and different rule sets. And all of that, it all contributed to where I am now.
Now, you mentioned that the similarities in the process. One thing I find interesting, and when I've attempted writing, I used to write scripts, is I'm one of those people that the characters would speak to me. Like, it's kind of shocking when it starts and people say it, but when it happens, you go, there's somebody else driving the bus. I want them to do this, and they're telling me what they're going to do, and it's different. Do you find that to be a similar thing? Because I would think if the players are controlling it when you're writing and your characters are doing it, it must give you some kind of like feeling like
Absolutely.
That. Is that true?
Yeah, 100%. That's kind of why I do things the way I do. I don't write my outline too deeply, because I do want to give myself room for the characters. If they feel like, if a scene is going a certain direction, if characters have been behaving a certain way, I don't want to fall into a trap of having to stay exactly on a course that has every beat already spelled out, because then the characters don't have that breathing room and they don't have the chance to make those choices that might lead to a better story. I do have an ending always in mind, and I have some major plot points that we're always building toward, but the way that we get there, I really like to leave largely up to the characters. It depends on the book. Everything always depends on what the story demands. Mm-hmm. Obviously, when I was doing Try Not to Die on Slashtag, where you have to have all these scripted death scenes every couple of pages, that was a very different process. But by and large, yeah, I really do like to have my characters, because that's the other thing with Dungeons and Dragons is you can plan 10 different choices for your characters to make, and they're always going to choose an 11th. It's always going to be something that you never planned. Right. You've got a train and you're trying to get somewhere, and the train's been derailed, and you're like, these are the 9 different ways they can solve it. And someone's like, I turn into a gorilla, and he turns up and creates like a levee pulley system. And we managed to like use centrifugal force and levers to be able to offset the weight. And you're like, oh my God, okay. Yeah, all right, sure. You did it. And so that's what I'm used to in terms of collaborative storytelling. And so when it's just me going slowly crazy by myself writing a book, I think those situations have prepared me to write what I hope to be interesting characters that don't do what you expect.
Right. And do you, when the characters talk to you, do you actually like in your head hear them like telling you, or do you just get the sense like, nope, this is where I'm going?
Yeah, it's more of a sense of where they're going. There's sometimes it takes me writing something that is kind of trying to force the direction to realize that that's not the direction.
Yeah.
And say, that doesn't feel right. That doesn't feel like what the character would do. We're going to have them do what it feels like they've been building toward. And I mean, some characters have died. Some characters have survived because of those moments in books. And it completely changes the course sometimes of the narrative. That happened with my most recent book, Kill Beth, which I won't share anything, but one of the larger twists around the book was not there when I started writing it, but it kind of clicked about halfway through and I went, oh my gosh, this is great. Okay. But if I had fully scripted it out and outlined the whole book in detail, I wouldn't have gotten there. And it's in my mind, the thing I'm most proud of. So
I love that.
Good. Yeah.
So what is it about horror that keeps pulling you back? Is it the fear? Is it the freedom? Is it just something entirely different than that?
I think it's character. It's empathy, which I think is on face value is a weird thing to say.
Yeah, it is about horror writing, but no, it makes perfect sense.
It is. I like to write where I'm deeply in the perspective of my characters. I care very much about my characters. I put a lot of myself in my characters. And that's the thing that I really enjoy about watching horror movies and reading horror books. And I was reading this article the other day, and it was about a conversation that these people had where the guy's girlfriend was saying, how can you watch all of these horror movies? It's so awful watching everybody get killed. And he goes, well, we just watched like a Stallone action movie. We just watched The Expendables. How many people got killed in that movie? He's like, oh, hundreds. Did you care about a single one of them? Well, no. It's like, well, there we go. The reason you're upset when people die in a good horror movie or a horror novel is because you care about them.
Right.
And so I think that being able to appreciate horror requires you to have a really deep sense of empathy in order to care about them when those terrible things happen.
Yeah, and there is a genre of horror where I see people that it's a meat grinder, and there is no empathy there. And people that are into that, like you can get down with it once in a while, but to me, that's not where the mojo is. It's when you get that visceral reaction where you feel for the character, and that's why like a good serial killer one, if it's done right, can be the most awful horror experience of your life because you care. Like what was the one? It's not Gone Girl, but the one where the serial killer took the girl and he had her in like not far from her house underground. The Lovely Bones.
Oh my gosh, with with Stanley Tucci, right?
Yes. Oh yeah. My God,
that was rough and
brutal.
Was it Saoirse Ronan? Was she the girl?
Yes.
Yeah.
And that is pure horror, man.
Oh, yeah, it is. I had read that behind the scenes, after every scene, Stanley Tucci profusely apologized to her. And he said that it actually traumatized him making that movie.
Oh, I can imagine. He'd have to go and cook a fancy meal for her just to make up for things because he's a big cook.
Yeah.
So do you find for you, because you're having to dive into it, whether it's personal or not, but do you find yourself exploring like personal fears or traumas that you're working through with this?
Absolutely. It's like that moment in the Avengers, like that's my secret. I'm anxious about everything. Everything makes me nervous or anxious. So I have a lot of things that I'm afraid of, and a lot of that comes out in my books. And sometimes they are weird things that you don't expect, or that I don't realize that other people aren't afraid of or aren't weirded out by. I'll give an example from Slashtag because it's one of the funnier ones. I was writing that book and I wrote this scene, and as I was writing, and I don't write splatterpunk. I don't write things that are too violent. Okay. But I wrote a scene that in my mind was really gross. And I thought, this is so far beyond what I normally write. This is not what my fans want. And I went to my wife. I give her all of my pages whenever I'm ready. I give her like every 15 or so pages. And I gave it to her and I went, watch out. This is the grossest thing I've ever written. I can't even eat lunch. And she reads it. She goes, She goes, what was it? And I'm like, this part where she eats like 3 pounds of butter? And she's like, yeah. I'm like, that's it. She's like, that was not gross at all. She just ate a lot of butter. I'm like, yeah, too much butter.
Yeah, it's so gross. Too much butter.
Like, in my mind, I'm like, this is the grossest thing I can concoct. And then she's like, you have scenes where people get their fingers cut off in books and then have like scalpels inserted into the fingers and like glued on. And I'm like, yeah, but that's like silly stuff. That wouldn't really happen. Eating too much butter, though, that's terrifying.
Yeah. I mean, imagine, like, I remember hearing a DJ in Chicago that was one of the talk shows, and he said that when he was a kid, he loved mayonnaise, and he went home one day, and no one was home, and he went, I'm going to have a snack, and he ate a jar of mayonnaise. Ooh. And it made him incredibly sick. And he was like, I never ate mayonnaise again. It just seems so gross to me. It's the same thing. It's like, that is like nothing to him. Mayonnaise is a terrifying experience. It's a real thing. He's like, it ruined my life. It's like, wow, it was a jar of mayonnaise,
But if you're young enough, it can have that lasting effect. I think it all came from, I went out to dinner with my family and I loved putting a lot of butter on bread. And I thought, well, if I love the butter so much on bread, I'm just going to pop one in my mouth. And I think that was the moment where I made a big mistake. And I couldn't
started screaming at the table. Nah!
It's very unpleasant.
So unpleasant is your style. You go for the unpleasant horror. Like, I could say, do you like cosmic horror? Do you like slasher? You're like, no, unpleasantness.
It's funny because I just had an early review come out for my book Kill Beth today, and the person put it really well. I kind of want to start using this in my marketing. He said that it was cozy panic.
Oh my God. What a great term.
Right? I've heard of cozy horror before and I've read some, but I've never heard of cozy panic. And I thought, I love this. I'm going to start using this. It's perfect. It's too good not to.
I interviewed Nick Smith, who has these mystery novels, but the main characters are cats. So they're like human cats. And I said to him, so is your thing writing cat noir? And he's like, from now on it is. Like, that is the thing. So cozy, what was it? Cozy
panic.
Cozy panic. That's your thing, man.
I think it might be. It really does sum up, because I do focus on very character-driven stories, and the characters are always very anxious. There is a lot of anxiety in all of my books. I think that is the one thing across all the kind of subgenres in horror that I have traipsed at this point. The one thing is that they all have anxiety issues. So I think that he maybe hit the nail on the head there. And I kind of know now a little bit, maybe more where to lean.
Sure. So, okay. Has horror as a writer, now we're going to kind of shift into the writing thing a little bit. Has it changed the way, because you're writing so much in between gaming and that, has it changed the way that you see the world?
That's a good question. So I don't know that it's changed the way I see the world in a direct, like sitting down and writing way. But what it has changed my perspective on is the way that is fandoms. I worked in the board game industry for a long time before I started writing professionally. And the thing about board games, and I work mostly in licenses. So I've worked on Dragon Ball and I've worked on Ghostbusters and Star Wars and all this stuff. And the thing is that all those fandoms are full of terrible people who are really mean. They hate everything.
Yeah.
And there's just nothing you can do. A lot of trolls. And so there's a lot of really mean people in those fandoms. That is the complete opposite of my experience in writing horror and talking to and interacting with horror fans. I go to a lot of horror conventions, whether they be movie horror conventions, general horror conventions, or of course, writing focused horror conventions. But the big thing that I find across all of those is that the spookier someone looks, the absolutely nicer they are. And that has been, honestly, without fail, the case for me. and it's like metalheads, right? And they're just the nicest people. And I think it does come back to empathy, where I think in order to really appreciate horror, you have to find a way to compartmentalize some of your darker feelings. And you also have to understand and know how to care about characters. And so I think that combination has created just the loveliest group of people I've ever met.
Well, I think that there might be, I mean, here we're going to get into psychology, but I think that there might be something to what attracts you. So like I've interviewed a lot of horror filmmakers and authors and, people just around it. And they seem to fall into a couple of categories. One is scared all the time. They're terrified of everything as a kid, and they end up a horror writer, and they're like, okay, this is my thing. Others that like, I came out of the womb dressed like Morticia, and my life is horror. But I don't find a lot that are the weird. I actually find the people that are into true crime can be the weirder ones. Like they're the scarier people. And I like true crime podcasts and that, but the ones who like, there's a podcast I was listening to and I hate it. I'm not going to name it. I hate it. It's a big podcast. I hate it. It's all about true crime. And the reason I hated it is I've heard the people hosting it say, ooh, wouldn't it be cool if I was murdered by them? And I'm like, that is the opposite of how you should be thinking. The story, interesting. The fear you have, interesting. But the wanting to be on that end of it, I don't find that with horror fans. I don't find horror fans are like, I wish Freddy would come in and slit my throat. It's like, no.
Absolutely not. And I think that there is that very clear line between fiction and reality that I think is the distinguishing factor. You go to these conventions. I go to a lot of horror conventions. And when you see the booth that is really creating these idols and worshiping real serial killers, and you've got these shirts with, John Wayne Gacy all over it, or you've got a doormat that says Ed Gein, come on in, or something like that. And it really takes everything that you know for real, which is that these people had real victims, and those real victims have real families. And to say that I'm going to go out and I'm going to wear a shirt that has a real person who took people's lives on it, I think that shows a lack of empathy.
It does. I agree. And I don't see that with most like horror enthusiasts and horror writers. Certainly, horror filmmakers I've met are not like that. They like the genre. They like the emotion and the thrill and the trickery and all the fun stuff around it. But let's glorify John Wayne Gacy, I don't really see.
No, and there is a difference between glorifying and having a morbid curiosity. Because I love watching true crime as much as the next person. And my wife loves watching true crime. But we're not going at the end of it and saying, boy, I can't wait to go and try and find a way to like meet these people. You don't watch the end of like, we just watched the Ruby Frankie one where she had done all sorts of horrible stuff to her family. And it's like, I'm not going to go and try and like meet her and be friends with her now. That's the opposite. This is a despicable person. It's a fascinating story about the human condition.
Right.
But I don't want to.
But there's real victims at the end of the day. And that's just it. It's like, if you remember that, but isn't that true with your writing too? When like you were saying, in the Rambo thing, there's, or Expendables, there's the meat grinder of people and whatever, and you don't care about them. And in horror, you do. And I've watched films where you start going, but I know that they have a brother, a sister, a parent just outside of reach there. And it makes the stakes go way higher. Absolutely. I'm not cheering on the monster because damn, this is ruining lives. So do you see, look at me shifting gears again. Do you see any trends in horror? I mean, you've been doing this a while, you've in the gaming are there trends that you see evolving or that you see it going towards?
Well, I mean, the big trend that I've been seeing in a more general sense is the shift toward giving credence and giving the due to indie authors. I think that for a lot of people out there, their definition of horror novels is Stephen King. Right. And then they're like, and then there's everything else. But from what I've been seeing in not just in writing groups, but films being made, We're seeing authors who were more indie, people like Grady Hendrix, people like Paul Tremblay at Josh Malerman now has a big movie deal.
Yeah.
We're seeing these smaller guys starting to get these really big acclaim, and they're starting to get really popular in a larger audience, in a larger demographic. I saw Grady Hendrix's latest book, Witchcraft for Wayward Girls, in the front window of my local bookstore. And that's something I would never have seen 5 years ago.
Right.
It just, I wouldn't have. And so I saw they had Tender as the Flesh there. I went, wow, okay, this is great.
Yeah.
So I think that seeing places that are now accepting and celebrating horror authors and horror genre as more than just a club between like Stephen King, Dean Koontz, and Clive Barker, and saying, no, there are many horror authors out there and they have great books.
Yeah.
I think that's a huge paradigm shift in the industry right now that is only going to grow, I hope.
Now, do you think there's a trend in, because there's so many subgenres of horror, is there kind of a trend, like, for example, when Saw came out in movies, all of a sudden the horror movies became torture porn, and you had the Eli Roth stuff, and you had, it for a while, that was what you saw. Before that, when Scream came out, it became meta horror. Do you think there's a trend in horror books that you're seeing, or are you like, no, it's still, there's just so much, it's so wide open?
It is really wide open. I'll tell you, I'm seeing the end of one trend right now that's starting to finally kind of trickle out, which was spore or fungus based horror. Right around when I would say the second Last of Us game came out, a little after that, but before the show started, I started seeing a lot of fungus or mushroom related horror coming up. And there was a period of time where I read like 3 books in a row. I read like American Gothic. I read the T. Kingfisher book, What Moves the Dead. And then I read, I can't remember the name of it, but it was from Deborah Castaneda, and it was really good though. But all 3, I didn't know going in that all 3 were fungus horror. And so I was like, interesting. This is what's really popular right now. But that was a couple of years ago, and now it's finally, I think it's kind of tapered off.
Fungus
but I don't
is on
know
the way out.
Yeah, I don't know what's coming up right now. There's so many things, and that's, I think, part of what's so exciting right now is that every subgenre is being celebrated. Every subgenre is getting its moment to shine right now. We finally have a large enough community of readers that are open to anything. And if you are scared or like being scared by something, there is something out there for you. I see posts all the time on Books of Horror group where people are saying, I'm in the hospital right now. Can you give me hospital horror books? And it's like,
I saw one today. It was backpackers. Like, I'm backpacking. Do you have any backpack horror? I'm like, I don't have a backpack horror. I don't know.
No. And they're so specific, but you see people comment 40 books. Yeah. And you're like, okay, this isn't just saying like, I want books about witches. It's like, I want a book where someone is stuck in a cave. And you're like, oh, very specific.
Here's Ben Young's Stuck. Take it.
Ben Young's Stuck. Mike Salt's Hollow.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm looking for a butter-based book. Would you happen to know?
You know what? I think I got one for you. Slashtag.
Oh my God. Now, I don't know where you're positioned in the country. Are you in the Midwest?
I'm in San Diego.
You're in San Diego. Okay. Yeah. So this question works. You're I'm assuming coming into Chicago and then going to Indiana. Have you been out this way before?
Yeah, so I was at the first Books and Brews last year.
Okay.
But it was not in Indiana. I think it was in Illinois last year.
It was.
But I
didn't talk to you.
Well, I didn't have a table last year.
Okay.
I went last year. It's a little embarrassing, but it's, I think, a funny story. So Tiffany Copland had reached out to me. She organized this whole thing. She's an absolute superhero. And she had reached out to me and said, well, I'm putting this together. Are you interested? And I said, well, I'm in San Diego. This is in Illinois. This was before it had been announced. And I said, I just don't know if I can afford to go. I don't know if I can make it for that. And she said, that's totally fair. And then I started to see everyone that I had been interacting with in the last 2.5 years on Books of Horror saying they were going. So I messaged Tiffany. I go, can I please come? And she says, I'm so sorry. We ran out of tables. I said, okay, I'm going to come anyways. I'm just going to not have a table. I'm going to bring some stickers and some book plates and give those out. And honestly, I had the time of my life. It was the best event I have ever been to, without a doubt.
Well, I can't wait for 2.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be fabulous. I don't know if we get to go this year, though.
Oh, really?
My daughter and I went last year. She is going to be going to college. So that month. So we're like, is there a way we can go? And she is a horror author. So she's like, these are my people. But I don't know. And she has a podcast called Read Between the Lines where she interviews authors, which I will recommend you to her. I will tell her.
Oh,
and it's funny because we walked around and I thought I had interviewed a lot of people. They all knew Molly. We get there, but of course, the ones she knew were Josh Mallerman and Daniel Krauss and Christina Henry all knew Molly. And I'm like, really? I haven't interviewed any of these people, and they're your headliners, I guess. So yeah, it's a fabulous, fabulous event. So this is a 2-part question. Then it's actually 2 different questions, but I'm going to ask them at the same time. Okay.
Sure.
First, you're coming out here. Is there anything you're excited to eat or do while you're here other than Books and Brews? Number 2. See, I have to ask this at the same time. Is there anybody this time that you're super excited to meet?
Yeah. Okay. So the thing I'm very excited to do this time is, last year when I came, we very last minute put together a board gaming night event. And, the event itself was very short. You came in the day before, you went to it, and then you left the next day.
Yeah.
This time I'm flying in on a Thursday. I'm leaving on a Monday. I've got the whole weekend there, and I've got some board games that I wanted to bring that some people have been talking to me about. I made a game with Duncan Ralston based on Ghostland, and it's going to be coming out.
They were talking to me about playing that last year, and I couldn't go. I wanted to play that so badly. So you're the guy.
Now I'm the guy. Yes, I made Ghostland, and so we're going to have that, which is going to be a lot of fun. And now that we have some time, we're going to be able to play it. I know a lot of people are excited to try it out. And then I have another game that I actually made with Andrew Nyberg called The Bad Side of Town. And this one is not based on any books. It's based on, you're in a terrible part of town, and you each play as serial killers who have eked out your corner of town, and you've got an alliance so that you're not going into each other's territory. Right. A new serial killer comes into town, breaking all the rules. So you all have to work together as serial killers to catch the other serial killer.
Oh my God. That is fantastic.
Sometimes you get too anxious. And so you have to start doing murders yourself. And then you have to clean it up really fast so the police don't catch you. And so it's a really fun game. It's kind of like Pandemic. So we're going to have those with us there, and we're going to be demoing them for people. So we're really looking forward to that.
The person I was going.
The person I'm really looking forward to seeing was somebody I got to meet for like a minute last year, and we had talked online so much, and he seems like such a great guy. It's Mike Salt. I really love his books, and I got to meet him for like a minute. And it's one of those things where it's like, I really felt like we would be friends. I feel like we really get along online, and so I'm hoping that I have some more time to actually get to hang out with him. Because you meet so many people. It's so overwhelming, especially when you have people who are like fans of yours. I don't meet people who are fans of things I do. That's just not what my life is. And so to go to an event where I'm not only seeing all the people that I'm fans with and also friends with online and getting to meet them in person, but I'm also meeting people who have read my books and know who I am and are excited to hang out with me. And that is a completely new experience that there's no way for me to prepare for it, but it's incredible. It's such an incredible feeling.
It's fabulous. Well, I am super excited for this event. I don't know if we're going to be able to go, but I wish you just the greatest time, because I know what a great time we had last year. And I hope you get to spend time with Mike Salt. I hope you make lots of friends that you walk out and go, oh my God, everybody was awesome, because they all were awesome last year that I met. Okay. Books and Brews 2. It's at the Wyndham Hilton. Is that what it is?
I think
the Wyndham Hotel
in Noblesville,
Indiana, on August 1st. You can go to Books of Horror on Facebook. You'll see things about it there. You can go to Books and Brews, but make sure it's the one that is going to be doing this event, because there is a Books and Brews there's a bar or something that does this in another state. It's a completely different thing. So that's why I say go to look at Books of Horror, and you'll find it through there. Books of Horror is a fabulous group. They do just a wonderful job with it. And come to it. Meet Jon. Talk to him about board games. Talk to him about video games. Talk to him about all the stuff. And in fact, Jon, I'm going to say it right now. I'm going to invite you onto another show. I do one called the TTRPG Insider, where we talk about kind of your story, but we talk about like what gaming you like and how you get into it, and that it's kind of behind the scenes as opposed to let's just promote a game. Then again, you can promote your books and your games on there. So I'll invite you onto that another time. And we'll also invite you onto Alley Chats, which is one where we talk to people that you'd find in an artist alley, which you would be one of those people. And you can talk about board games and everything else. So, Jon, this was really great. I'm telling you, I am obsessed with the cover of Slashtag. Now that I know about the choose your own badly ending adventure, I am super excited for that. It's been a real pleasure, and we'll put your links in the show notes. Is there any place where you interact mostly with people?
Yeah, I mostly interact on Facebook. You can find me just Jon Cohn or Jon Cohn Author. I'm on all the other things too. I'm at Jon Cohn Author. My website is joncohnauthor.com. You can order autographed books, and if you do, I will give you an unhealthy amount of custom stickers.
Sorry, I overordered. Here you go.
My wife and I make them ourselves. She's a graphic designer and an illustrator, so she makes the stickers, and we make them and we laminate and cut them all at home. It's a passion project, and so I have way too many stickers that I love giving out. Awesome. So yeah, you can find me in all of those places. And yeah, check out my books and check out my games.
And I'll put that stuff in the show notes. Jon, thank you. Good luck with all this. Enjoy yourself. Hopefully we'll get to meet in person.
Thank you, Rob. I hope so too.